Hi guys, my name's Graham. This is my 1970 VG E31 big tank Valiant Pacer. I've had this car since 17 and it's had numerous builds over the years and I have restored it a few times. Probably one of the only ones getting around with a sunroof in it. Actually I do know of one other which is a white one, but this one's pretty unique. Born and bred in Marrickville, so all those who know me and know the car, this roamed the streets in Marrickville for many years. Why a Valiant? Well, wanted to be different. There's so many people who've got GT Falcons and Tiranas and Monaros. And to be quite honest with you, that's all I could afford back in the day. And a good friend of mine named Peter Markatanakis has got a silver VG Valiant Pacer. And he used to come down and pick me up. And I had a Tirana GDR, white one back then. And the car wasn't an original, it was a little bit battered. And I wanted to do something different. I know another friend of mine, Fred Solomon, also had a VG Pacer. And what convinced me was he had triple Webers on this 265. And this 265 was one of the quickest cars I've ever been in. So then I went shopping. It was time to hunt down a 71 or 70 VG Bathurst Pacer. Very hard to find. And I found this one here. So it was a factory mustard car. And begged my father, and for the sum of $400, we did the deal. Took it home, and then myself and all the boys got the paint strippers out and the tools, and we went to town on it. And that's how the transformation began. Well, from the age of 14 to 15, myself and my brother who lives across the road, George, his father had taxis. And we're a couple of young mechanics back in those days. Weren't so successful at school, but we also had a passion for cars. And hanging around with George and his brother, we had the freedom of getting into cars and modifying cars, and that's how it all started. And once I became an apprentice mechanic, the rest is history. It was just cars, and nothing but cars. So the first car I ever drove was my dad's Kingswood. So it was a HJ, automatic, so it was column shift, bench seat, and it was brown and white. So it's the first car I ever drove with a 202 in it. Fell in love with the car and had all these sorts of plans, but it just wasn't the car to do it. Obviously it was my dad's car. And then I come across an LC Tirana, and I wanted to Marrickville spec it up and make it into a GDR, but the only problem was it had 2 doors too many. It was a 4-door version. And that was great for a couple of years. And then along come the Pacer. I fell in love with the Pacer, the big Hemi, so it was a 245 from factory, and then started from there. I had a vision to make this thing into what it is today. It has been through quite a few versions, but what you see here today in front of you is basically the final version of where we're happy and what it's become. Yes, I built this car from ground up. This car has many builds, but the very first build, myself and all my good friends were in the side driveway at my house in Marrickville, and we all took a scraper and we put it back to bare metal. And then I had a good friend of mine at the time, was a panel beater. He painted it inside out and basically redid the trim. And then from there, it's had a couple of, I guess, birthday presents. And the final one I did probably about 10 years ago, when it had a full respray again. And went back through, did all the interior and a couple of different engine combos since. So yes, the ground up rebuild on the car. So yeah. So the current drivetrain at the moment is a Barra. Yeah, I know for you Chrysler diehard enthusiasts, it's sickening, but the thing was, when you want to go fast and you don't have a lot of money to throw at it, we went down with the Barra combo. So I've had many many combos in this before. I had a 360 LA motor in this, powered to a 3-speed transmission, and the car was good for low 10s, but after 3 attempts the motor gave way, and we rebuilt it and gave way and rebuilt it and gave way, and then I thought, I've got to get with the modern technology. So a couple of good friends of mine, especially one, he's the Barra king of Cootamundra, and after seeing his car pick the wheels off the ground and running some serious numbers, we got together and we done our homework and we decided that we're going to put a Barra into this thing. And some of the footage that you'll see on here, this thing also picks up the wheels and gets the car in a pretty fast number. Okay, so basically we've got a Barra here and it's turbo powered, and behind it we've got a 2-speed power glide with a 9-inch diff, and we're running 323 gears. So the car's set up also with a trans brake, which gets it out of the hole quite nice. Computer system we're running is all Haltech, and we're running a pulsar turbo on it as well. I was hoping for a low 10, so maybe a 10.1 or a 10.2. This car's gone in the low 9s now, where we run out the back door, and it's got a lot of potential in the car to run in the high 8s. Again, we've got to sort a few things out in the car at the moment. It picks the wheels up, but the car's starting to dance all over the track. So once we fix that up, I'm hoping that we will run in the high 8s. But yes, it has exceeded my expectations. I never thought we'd see these sort of single figures that this car is producing, and just watching the car lift the wheels up and slingshot down the track is just blows me away. At the moment, I'm running front runners on the front, so they're world bills, 15 by 3.5s, and on the back we've got 295 50s. So I'm going to put a 305 in it eventually because I can go a bigger tyre. But at the moment, the 295 is working quite well with the Mickey Thompsons, and the car is mini tub, so we will put a bigger tyre on it once I guess we sort it out going straight. So it's got factory trim in it, and it's all original Pacer, so I've got the proper tombstone seats, but I've pulled those out because they're no good at the track, and I learnt that the hard way. At Cootamundra, when we picked the wheels up off the ground, the seat gave way and I ended up in the back seat and almost lost control of the car. So then racing's racing, right? So I said to Tony Casiotis at the time, I'm going to have to pull out, and he said, mate, no, you're going to be doing that. So basically what we did, we went and got this plastic drum, we wedged it in behind the seat to keep the seat upright. But I knew from after that, those seats had to come out. So at the moment, you've got Recaros in the front, and the rest of the trim is standard factory, genuine Pacer trim. Okay, the colour you see on the car at the moment is a colour they painted back in the day with the Norm Beachy combo, so shell yellow. The car is a factory mustard car, but going back through all the old archives and things like that, when I wanted to be a little bit different from everyone else who's got a mustard Pacer, the shell yellow popped out at me. So it's painted to replicate that shell yellow colour. So basically, it's a factory tinter yellow with a tinge of green in it. But yeah, it's the shell yellow. So they call it shell yellow. So it actually pops. Well, there's been plenty of hiccups and plenty of challenges in these builds. So when I had the V8, you had the issues of, I had big pipes on, they were custom pipes and they were very tight to fit in there, and we had to put rack and pinion steering, and obviously, that was one of the challenges. But then we went to the Barra, and I guess to squeeze that in, we had to modify the sump, quite a lot of modifications to make all this fit. And then putting the arse end in it, there's been challenge after challenge after challenge. And I guess myself and a very good friend of mine, Louis, we worked numerous nights, 12-hour nights to make sure all the plumbing and hoses and everything, wiring and you name it, to get all that stuff in the car wasn't easy. But that's just, I guess, racing's racing and building cars is building cars. And these are the challenges that you face. But we got through it. A lot of tough positions you're in to try and get, things in places that don't go from factory. But with all the hard work, we managed to do it. 2K motor. So it's a little bit of a gimmick that myself and the boys come up with. So I guess you can throw a $2,000 Barra in this thing and pick the wheels up off the ground, which is a classic example of what we've got here. I think the motor owes me like $600, but it's all the accessories that are expensive. So it's a bit of a gig that we got. So 2K motor, we decided to put on the car, but the actual number plates for this car is GAS 265, and I've had it since the day this car was born and still got those plates. No, this car won't ever be up for sale. This car, I guess when I'm dead and buried, will be passed on to my kids. And I've also got a grandson, and if my daughters don't want this car, I want my grandson to have the car. So young Jimbo, in years to come when you're watching this, your papa had this in mind for you, mate. So girls get it first, but if the girls don't want it, it's obviously going to be yours, and you keep this thing humming. What I enjoy about the car is, I guess, the attention to detail in the engine bay. Also, it's got that wind-back sunroof. And when you look at the back of the car, you've got some real fat tyres on the back, so it's got a real nice fat ass on it. But when you want to cruise around and you can't even hear the car until you press a button, and then it gives you that rumble, which is the bop, 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 bop. But that's something, I guess, the Marifel coming out of me. And that's what really, I guess, bars me up about this car. Well, at the moment, I've got one of every make. So I've got my Valiant. I've also got a two-door Tirana, and I've also got a GT Falcon. But I guess one car I've never owned is an RX-3 Mazda Coupe, which I'd love to own. But never say never. That could be in the collection one day. I've got an International Acco truck, so that there again is a different story, but another great story as well. But yeah, probably a Mazda RX-3 would I'd love to have in the collection. Okay, so at the moment we've got the car capped at 900 at the rear wheels. So at the flywheel, that could be, I think, about 1,070, maybe 1,100, something like that. But yeah, we decided that we'll cap it at 900 because this car hasn't got a built bottom end. All the top end's done. We've got all the good gear in the car, but the bottom end's probably the weakest point. So at the moment, as you see it, the way it's racing, and with the power that we've got, we've capped that at 900 at the rear wheels. Well, I guess being the president of a club and getting all our friends associated to go to places like Cootamundra to support a good friend of mine, Tony Casiotis, and just our car events and things like that. But being able to take this along and be so proud of it is a good achievement. But again, running in the single figures out at our special drag days is massive, and it just makes me so proud from where the car was to where the car is today. So at the moment we're running the factory big tank. So the E31s and E34s come out with a big tank, so it's a factory tank, but I've got a lot of plumbing running off that tank, and that goes into massive fuel lines that run down to the motor. So yeah, factory tank, factory filler. Well, here's a car club that we started. So I was a shift worker. I've been on the waterfront for 33 years. And basically, I was in several clubs along that journey. And I guess with all the different communities, I got out of them. And then with the guys I work with, because we miss out on weekends, so we decided that we all need to do something. And the boys kept saying to me, come on, Graham, you've got to do something, you've got to do something. And I said, well, hey, why don't we do something where we can go during the week, which we were doing. So it started with a small group of friends, all shift workers. And on our days off, we're taking the cars off. So, we're cruising on Tuesdays and then become Wednesdays and become Thursdays. And they were mainly, evening runs, and it become very popular. So then we started the club, Midweek Muscle Car Club. So that club's evolved into, 1,000 financial members. And with our Facebook and Instagram, it gives us around about 4,500 to 5,000 members all up. And people love it because it's a club designed for shift workers. We've got a lot of different shift workers in the club, from police to ambos to fireys, SES workers, wharfies, people who work in hospitals. Just people from all kinds of backgrounds that are shift workers is a club that suits them. And our vice president, he's got that luxury of being able to get out there during the week, and he's keeping the midweek spirit alive. And with the people who can get out during the week with shift workers or retirees, that's still happening, and it's very, very popular. So the club means a lot to us. Like I said, it's come from something small into something big now, and I'm very proud of this achievement. We've got a great community, and we love what we do, and we love to give back to the community. And we do that, every year, and we make sure that we keep all our events fun, and we always encourage bring your wife, bring your kids. A little bit of shenanigans in between here and there, but we always try and keep it funny, and we do donations to charities of choices and things like that as well. At the moment, we're sponsoring a young guy, Dimitri, who's up and coming. He's building a drift car, so Midweek's decided to sponsor him for that. When Terry Thompson died, who was the president of the CMC, we decided we'd donate a significant amount of funds to his charity of choice, which was the Cancer Foundation, and we did that in honour of Terry. And also a couple other things we're doing as well, sponsoring some other events along our journey. So we are set up as a not-for-profit car club, and we're very proud. And as a president, I'm very proud of where the club has evolved to. Well, I guess I'd like to thank my parents for all the years they've put up with me and put up with the car. My mum, obviously back in the day when I used to go up and down the driveway, the car was pumping out avgas. She used to always complain about it because it used to drive her mad. But I guess the main people in the current form and state it is in today, Angela, my partner, I thank you very much for all your help and hard work. Louis Katsiaris, the doctor of the build as well. He's a very smart man, and with his talent and his expertise, we've come a long way. There's a whole lot of other people I'd like to thank. Johnny, who done the wiring, George Patata for detailing the car, and I guess Coolstream helping with the interior. So, and there's probably a whole lot of other people I'd like to thank. And if I haven't mentioned your name, please don't be offended. But yeah, I thank you very much for helping us along the journey of the build here. But yeah, mainly Angela, thank you very much. It's been a massive journey, and she's always given me that support along the way. Special thanks to Billy Zahos, the doctor of all electrical work. Billy has spent countless hours on this car and other cars that I have. But Billy, if you're watching, Rockdale Auto Electrical, mate, a very special thank you to you, mate. All the blood, sweat and tears and hours that you've spent making it happen, mate. So Billy, thank you very much. Special thanks, mate.